Hi, my name is Ryan, and in this video, let's create this responsive navigation menu in HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript. Let's first create the markup for the navigation menu. I'll add a nav tag. Inside this nav tag, I'll add the UL tag. And within this UL tag, I'll add a few list items which will also contain an anchor tag. So let me duplicate this a few times. This will be home. This will be about. This can be services, and finally this can be contact. Now for smaller screens we will also require a hamburger menu icon, so let's create one just above the UL tag. I'll add in a div element with the class of toggle, and inside here I'll add in the Unicode, which is going to be ampersand hash 9776. Now if you check in the browser, we have a tiny hamburger menu icon. And we're done with the HTML part. Now let's go to our CSS file. The first thing we're going to do here is remove the default margin and the padding. Now let's target the nav element. We'll give it a background of sky blue. We'll set the display to flex, and we'll say justify content space between. So now if you check in the browser, the hamburger menu icon and the list items are on the same line, and there's a good amount of space in between. And finally, let's give it some padding, let's say of 20 pixels. Next, let's target the UL element. We'll give it a margin of 0 auto so that it's in the center, and we'll set its display to flex so that the list items are now on the same line. Now let's target the individual list items. I'll say UL space li, and we'll remove the bullet points by saying list style type none. Next, let's target the anchor tags. We'll say text decoration none. We'll give it a color of white. We'll say font family Verdana, and finally we'll add in some margin to the right of 20 pixels. Now let's style the hamburger menu icon. We'll target the class toggle, and we'll increase the font size to 2em. And for large screens, we don't want the hamburger menu icon to be seen, so we'll say display none. Now let's add in some media queries so that list items are displayed one below the other when we click on the hamburger menu. So for that, we'll say media space max width. We'll set the max width to 500 pixels. So the styles within here will be applied only if the screen size is 500 pixels and below. So first let's style the toggle icon. Let me make some space at the bottom. I'll target the class toggle, and I'll say display block. Now if we reduce the size of our browser, you can see that the hamburger menu icon appears for sizes of 500 and below. Next, let's give it some padding, let's say of 10 pixels, and we'll set the cursor to pointer. So if we hover over the icon, we see a pointer cursor. Next, let's target the nav element. We'll set its flex direction to column, and we'll give it a padding of 0. Now let's target the UL element. We'll give it a width of 100%, and the flex direction will be column. Now as you can see, the list items are just as we want them to be. They are one below the other. Now let's target the list items inside the UL tag. We'll give them a padding of 10 pixel. We'll align the text to the center. We'll give a border bottom of 0.5 pixel solid white. Now each of these li item has a border at the bottom. However, there's no border below the toggle icon, so let's give it a border of bottom of 0.5 pixel solid white. Now let's give the list items a different background color on the hover state. So I'll come down here, I'll say ul li hover, and I'll give it a background of 1a HCFF. So let's check it out now. So as you can see, the list items now have a different color on hover. By default, we don't want the drop down to be seen. We don't want these list items to be seen by default. We want them to be seen only when somebody clicks on the hamburger menu. So let's go to our UL element and we'll say display none. Now let's add in a class which will be added using JavaScript, so that when somebody clicks on the hamburger menu icon, the list items are seen. So I'll create a class with the name dropdown, and I'll say display block. So now when we add this class using JavaScript, and when somebody clicks on the hamburger menu icon, the list items will be seen. So let's do that. I'll go to my JS file. I'll say document dot query selector, and we'll select the class with the name toggle, which is our hamburger icon, and we'll add an event listener of click, and we'll run our function. So all we're trying to say is get us the class of toggle, and when somebody clicks on it, run a function. And inside this function we need to select the UL element. So let's do that. I'll say query selector UL, and we'll add the class of dropdown to it, the class that we created. So I'll say class list. We want this class to be toggled, which means when somebody clicks on the hamburger menu icon once, we want the list items to show, and when the person clicks again, we want the list items to hide. And we'll add in the class of dropdown. Now let's check it, and here we have a responsive working navigation menu, and that was quite simple to make, and hope you found it helpful. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, have a nice day.